In today's video, I want to build a new storage room in my world, and for this I want to make a room dedicated to storing all the different types of wood, as I feel like it tying well with the forest I built a few episodes ago. So taking a brief look at the forest, I think we've got a huge amount of lush greenery here that I kind of want to strip back for this next section, and all I want it to be is like if this forest had all the trees cut off at about 1 block tall, and if a lot of the foliage and stuff had been sort of torn back, that we lose a lot of the kind of lush green environment that we've made here. But if we're going to be building a lumber mill here, I first want to plan out vaguely how big it will be. I need to know if I have enough space to store all the wood types. Okay, so in my creative one, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I've covered up the walls here. But here's what I've designed for the interior of this new build. And I wanted to have space for all the wood types, which I use regularly to have lots of storage, plus a little bit of storage for each of the other wood types, and some overflow chests in case I either fill up any of these, or if Mojang decide to add more wood types, which would obviously be great, so I want to have more space in case of that happening. So now I know how big I need to make the interior of the build. I think what I might do is just do a quick time lapse to lay out the plan for where the build's going to sit in the world. I'll see you once that's done. Okay, so I think now we've got this area laid out, it's kind of given us a good idea of where we're going to place this building. Now, I think a lot of people might be wondering why I've placed it so close to the front of the forest and not have it deeper in. And I feel like the reason for that is mostly just I want the actual tree chopping area to sit behind. I think it would make more sense from a narrative perspective. As realistically, if you're going to be building an area like this to process the woods, you're not going to build it right in the middle of all the trees. You're going to build it when you've only just started chopping down trees. So that's kind of my sort of reasoning for why that's going to fit in here, and why I haven't sort of embedded it further into the terrain. But the real reason is more practical to reach it from the path, because it's going to be a storage room I'm probably going to go to quite often, and I just want to make my life easier, and having to walk down a longer path would just be a bit of a pain. So I've come up with a sort of world building reason just to kind of make that all make sense. But now the next thing we need to do is build all the terrain in the side. I've already started a little bit here, but I'm going to use a load of coarse dirt and a bit of wood just to kind of shape out how the ground's going to look. So I've now laid out this first layer of the terrain, and I think this is giving a much better idea of how we're going to integrate this build. So we've got a bit of space around the back, for example, over here, where I want to kind of have piles of logs that have been cut down, ready to be transported. And then what I'm thinking of doing is around about here, I've left a little gap, because I want to sort of build a path that runs down towards the woods here, and we're going to then lay down a load of tree stumps where they've been cut down around all this area. Part of me also thinks we could have some kind of waterfall around here. I think we could have some kind of aqueduct that leads water to fall down, which then would run into a stream that runs all the way down and fills up this lake, as that could make quite a bit of interesting world building for this area. But I'm yet to decide exactly if that's what I want to do, but if it is, we'll do that. Right, now I want to be doing the terrain for this area, and I want to get it right. So I've come into Red Dead to look at a similar sort of thing to what I want to make, which is where this sort of logging area has been. So if you come around here, what you'll notice is that around the stumps themselves, there's actually grass instead of dirt, which is kind of the opposite to what's in the forest itself. And the reason for that, I think, is because where people are walking, they usually will just go between the logs like this, and they won't be walking right up. So what I'm going to do is replicate this by having sort of coarse dirt paths around where the stumps are. And the other thing I want to obviously replicate is this kind of desolate wasteland style where you have kind of a bit of greenery trying to break through, but otherwise a lot of kind of almost barren landscape. Right, so I've just skipped through to the day because I want to have a quick look at this area in the daytime just before I see it, so I can kind of have a better look at the colours of the actual landscape itself. So now heading down to the logging camp, I think what's really important is that the grass areas stand out, because as you can see here, it's a very bright green against what's almost like a sort of greyish brown colour. And I think if we can make the grassy areas around the tree stumps stand out, I think that'd be really good. Now also looking at the forest tree line over here, as you can see, this logging camp area will extend right up to the edge of the forest, as I want to make sure that we get that looking right so it makes this whole area feel seamless. With all that done, I think it's time we head back to Minecraft and get working on this build. What I think we might do is just fully transition from this layer of terrain all the way down to the edge of the forest, and I think that'd be very important to get it done and looking good. And then once that's done, we can start to think about actually making the building itself. Now we've got the ground textures in, and I think this is now starting to sort of feel a bit more connected. Obviously there's a long way to go, we've still got to add all the tree stumps and everything like that. So I have added this little river which runs down from here, and although I haven't filled this tub up yet, the water running down I think makes this whole area feel a little bit more connected, and this just adds a bit of movement that flows all the way down from up here all the way into the woods. I have also added this little retaining wall along here, which I just think makes the whole thing feel a little bit more like it's been reinforced and built up, as well as a small kind of stone cliff down this side, which again just connects this top section. Yeah, I'm going to probably put some things up here at the top just to sort of make it less flush, but this just connects this top section down to here in a bit more of an interesting way. So of course the next step will be to add all the details in here with all the logs and foliage and stuff. But before we do that, I just wanted to show you all that I've been working over here. As off camera, I've just been filling in the gap between this build here and where the bridge is. The load of farmland that just runs down to the river and makes this whole area seem a bit more integrated with the riverbank. Now this is all part of my aim with this world, to make all the areas feel tied together. So as you walk between these areas now, you can kind of see that the farmers have used the natural irrigation of the water in the river to make sure that the crops are getting lots of water, and it just adds a bit more detail. I've added a little sugarcane farm here as well, which I've capped off with some string. You might also notice that I've tidied up this area a bit, as I want to eventually fill out this section. And my goal for the moment is really making this whole area around this sort of central bit of water feel all finished. And this piece of work I've done along here I think has really helped bring this all together. But with that said, I'm going to keep working on this and also get to work over here. Okay, so I think the next thing I'm going to do in this little area is just add a few of these details in. The one detail I really want to add is just having a little kind of bridge coming across here. I think if we do something almost like that, kind of creates a little area where people cross, like a sort of makeshift bridge. Then what we also want to do is add some of these sort of tree stumps where the trees have been cut down in this area. And then I think if we add another log over here, maybe doing something a bit like this, that could look quite good. I think this sort of spacing is quite nice, so you've got a bit of space around each log so they don't feel too clumped together, but they still are kind of clearly were quite a dense bit of forest at one point. So like I've used over here, I do want to include some of these warped sprouts and stuff, and I'm thinking maybe over here something like this and then that. I think I might also bring in a few leaves just around here. But now I've shown a little bit of what I'm planning, I think I might skip ahead a bit to show you something closer to the finished product, because going through this manually will be very slow and boring. So I've made a huge amount of improvements over here now. As you can see, all these areas where the logs are all put in place, and there's lots of sort of shrubs and bushes and stuff growing up between the logs. I feel like really gets that vibrant green vibe I was going for, which we saw in Red Dead. Now over here we've obviously got all the sort of stacks of logs and stuff, and I thought we'd have a little camp where maybe the workers sort of take breaks around and stuff. But I also wanted to include a big pile of coal, because I was thinking with the main building we could have a thing where we have like a sort of chute that drops coal down, almost as if the coal is being used in the factory and it's being stored. I don't know, it doesn't really make any sense, but I just think it could look quite cool. So that's why we've got this pile here. But I feel like all this shrubbery here now really ties this whole area in with the forest. The transition feels pretty seamless to me. It's kind of what we're going for, and I'm really happy with how this is looking now. But all that's left to do on this bit now is just to build the actual main structure, which will be a big task, but I think it's something which will be good. And I'm thinking over here, I'm very tempted to add some kind of custom tree just to block the line of sight between the castle and this lumber mill. But with all that said, I think it's time we just get going and finish this build once and for all. So here's the ground floor done. As you can see, I've got these two different types of building here, because I've got this area is like an extension that's been added onto the side if the logging companies expanded the building along with the company's expansion. Whilst on this side, the more worn down sort of grey brick meant to represent this sort of being a much older part of the building. Now here, this is the start of when building chimneys, because I want there to be lots of sort of smoke rising up to fill in that factory aesthetic. And inside you've got plenty of room for storage, but we've already shown this off on the creative world, so that doesn't need to be shown in much more detail. Now I am thinking of this upstairs area, I want to bring in the red block palette that we used all the way over here in the farming village a bit. Because I feel like this is a really cool aesthetic, and I really want to bring in a bit more of this. As many of the lumber mills I've seen online seem to have kind of red painted wood for some reason, and I kind of think bringing that aesthetic across could also tie these areas together. So one thing I might do is build up quite a tall second floor, and then I'm also really tempted to build some kind of water tower up here on this side of the building. I think that could look really cool. Okay, I have put the upper floor on this building, so I'm going to show you that now. I'm really happy with how this has turned out. As you can see, I got that coal chute I was talking about in. And over here I installed a little water wheel that I think looks really good with like this kind of aqueduct stuff from the water tower. And of course plenty of chimney stacks to give lots of smoke. But I'm now going to take a quick break as I need to organise all the woods into here, which I think help me clear out some of these shulkers as well, which will be good. Okay, so I've just finished organising a load of the wood from up there and bringing it all down. So we're starting to fill up a lot of these chests with bits of the wood. I've added a craft table just into the floor because it'd be quite useful. But I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I'm very glad we finally got an actual storage room for wood. Now I'm feeling like the sightline from up here, this seems a bit too close almost. So I'm thinking I might add a tree in just down here as well as some sort of small lean-to structure. Just to try and kind of obscure the build a bit and make it feel a little bit further away. Okay, I'm going to have to be honest with everyone, I'm not sure about this tree. I think I like it, but I'm not set yet. It looks a bit odd from up here, but when you get up close it looks quite good. But what I've gone for here is sort of a worn, old, gnarled looking tree. And I've gone for the sort of mossy cobble to have it as vines growing up the side and like lichen and stuff. And I think it looks quite cool. Especially from down here, it kind of blocks off the view of the castle a bit. It definitely helps to create a bit more of a sense of distance between the castle down to the lumber mill. So I'm going to keep it for now. I might get rid of it, I'm not certain yet. But currently I'm liking it. I think it just ties this area together a bit more. Now there are things like I'm going to have to probably put some barrels and stuff over here. But for now I think this whole area is done. So I think it might be a good idea to do a quick walkthrough with some shaders just to have a proper look at it. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with how this is looking. I think the shaders have really looked good. Oh, yes. I think the shaders really bring this whole thing together. I just want to have a quick look at this stream here. Oh, you know what? I'm really happy with how this looks, actually. Well, I suppose that's probably a good place to leave it for now. I know it's been a long while again since another upload, but I've just still been really busy in life and I haven't had much time to record. And I hope this was a good episode, but if you made it to the end, consider subscribing as it would really help me out. Okay, so I was literally just editing this episode, and Minecraft Live has just happened, where they've announced another wood type. So I'm very glad that I've left this extra spaces, so I can always fill it in with more wood. But yeah, new wood type, that looks really good, so looking forward to building with that when that comes out.